Peace be with you. Dear friends, welcome to the series of When I Cannot Pray talks, and this is the 36th episode. We deal with the spiritual faculties because they are very important. We have dealt with the sensory faculties, and now we deal with the spiritual faculties. As we have hands, feet, backbone, and various senses for the healthy functioning of the body, the three faculties that form the spiritual part of the soul are memory, intellect, and the will that help the spiritual functioning of the human person. The aggregate of spiritual faculties of the soul is also called the superior, interior, and rational part. That is what St. John of the Cross says in his book, Ascent of Mount Carmel, second book, chapter 2 and paragraph 2. The three faculties naturally have no grasp of anything if nothing is communicated to them through the mediation of the five external senses. And that we can find in Ascent of Mount Carmel, first book, chapter 3, paragraph 3, and chapter 3, paragraph 4, and then we have chapter 17, paragraph 3. These spiritual faculties are also energized and integrated through the general and supernatural knowledge God provides them through His direct intervention in prayer. Generally, only the external senses provide material for the normal and natural functioning of these interior faculties. At times, God can directly intervene in these faculties to effect a kind of union without the mediation of the senses. And that's why I was recommending very often silent prayer. When we have that silent prayer, God stirs our soul. He touches our soul. There is a strict relationship and bond among these spiritual faculties. They are not watertight compartments. The conduct required of the memory and intellect concerning various internal movements is also necessary for the will. Since the intellect and the memory cannot admit or deny anything without the intervention of the will, the same doctrine that serves for the one faculty will evidently apply to others also. This relationship and cooperation among these three faculties leads us to gain natural and supernatural knowledge. I want to make it clear. You see, we experience that we are not merely flesh and blood formed from the matter of the universe, not merely the subject of sensations and feelings, imaginations and thoughts. We are an inexhaustible energy of love that seeks always to transcend the barriers of space and time and to discover the divine life. The Spirit is this energy of love in us, the power of the divine. It is the source of our real being by which we become conscious of the divine life in us and know ourselves as sons and daughters of God. The Spirit is according to Hindu spirituality, Atman, the self, which dwells in the heart of every human person. It is this spirit of which it is said in Hindu scriptures, to quote it, "It is not born, it does not die, it sprang from nothing, nothing sprang from it. It is the ancient, unborn, eternal, everlasting. It is not killed, though the body is killed. It is smaller than the small, greater than the great." Isha Upanishads, number 5. God can establish contact with us in our soul through His direct intervention into this core of our soul. Saints and mystics have confessed their inability to express what actually is their experience in the depth of their spirit. In order to obtain a glimpse of this depth, we shall try to understand the various functions of the three faculties. This will help us to keep ourselves open to God's action in the depth of our soul. Dear friends, I just want to make it very clear that we are spiritual beings, and for the sake of understanding, no one knows what it is, but for the sake of understanding, we have categorized and divided according to St. John of the Cross. These are three parts of our soul: the memory, the intellect, and the will. Now, about the memory. To begin with, the natural knowledge in the memory, I include under this heading all that can be formed from the objects of the five corporal senses: hearing, sight, smell, taste, and touch. And everything like this sensory knowledge that the memory can evoke and fashion. It must strip and empty itself of all this knowledge and these forms and strive to lose the imaginative apprehension of them. It should do this in such a way that no knowledge or trace of them remains in it. Rather, it should be bare and clear, as though nothing passed through it, forgetful of all and suspended. There is no way to union with God, according to St. John of the Cross. I am quoting his text, without annihilating the memory as to all forms. This union cannot be achieved without a complete separation of the memory from all forms that are not God. And since the memory cannot at the same time be united with God and with forms and distinct knowledge, and since God has no form or image comprehensible to the memory is without form, without figure when united with God. End quote. St. John of the Cross, Ascent of Mount Carmel, Book 3, Chapter 2, Paragraph 4. That is the text just now I have quoted. Very interesting. The word memory comes from the Greek root neme, if I am pronouncing it right, which is derived from the name of a goddess called Mnemosyne. Memory is the storehouse of the things perceived and experienced through the five exterior senses: imagination and fantasy. Hence, there is a close relationship between external senses, fantasy, imagination, and memory. The memory stores the impressions of the imagination as well as of the exterior senses and imagination, and is in turn fed by material stored in the memory. At the same time, the memory is not merely a mechanism for recording information, but it both recalls past experiences and also has the complementary and at least equally important function of looking towards the future. Memory, assimilating the past experiences, dynamically projects them in future situations. Future signifies hope. Therefore, this faculty is closely linked with the theological virtue of hope. Dear friends, memory is one of the most widely studied cognitive functions, and a number of different aspects of memory are recognized. Intellect and memory are organically related cognitive faculties working in intimate accord with one another. The affinity between the two is evident when one understands memory as the archive of all apprehensions. Memory presupposes comprehension of intellect. Comparing memory to a mirror, St. John of the Cross characterizes it as the reflection of all acquired apprehensions. Like a mirror, This faculty contains them within itself, whether they come to it from the five bodily senses or supernaturally. The labels short-term memory, primary memory, and working memory refer to the temporary storage of information that is necessary for the performance of many cognitive tasks. In order to understand the above expressions, for example, a reader must maintain the first half of the sentence in working memory while reading the second half. This working memory has been graphically described as the memory one uses to hold a telephone number in mind after looking it up in a directory and while dialing. The capacity of working memory is limited and it gets erased if not rehearsed. Long-term memory, secondary memory, and reference memory refer to the storage of information for longer periods of time. The capacity of long-term memory is very large, in practice unlimited, and it can endure indefinitely. In addition, psychologists distinguish episodic memory, a memory of specific events or episodes normally described by the verb remember, from semantic memory, a knowledge of facts normally said to be known rather than remembered. Therefore, dear friends, when we think about the memory, we need to keep in mind that memory has the power to retain as well as to project in future, and it becomes a storehouse. It is a kind of archive that helps us remember the past events. For example, I sit here and I can recall to mind the moments that I spent when I was in the primary school. My first day, I remember exactly, my dad brought me to the classroom and I was reluctant to enter the classroom because that time the schooling was that kind. And my dad put his hand on my shoulder, and my teacher, who was Mary teacher, she just held my hand and brought me and made me sit on that tiny bench that was there. And there were approximately, I don't remember exactly how many, but there were a group of children. And that was the first day of my school, which I can vividly remember. Even the building, everything is very clear in my mind. That is the long-term memory we never forget. But the short-term memory is perhaps a few days ago, something I ate or something I drank, I don't remember. For episodic memory, as I just explained to you, an episode, a big episode that happened in my life. First time when I saw the sea along with the other children, when I was in the third grade in school, we had a picnic to our close city, Mangalore, southern western part of India. And I saw first time the sea. I could not contain the sea. And that memory still is in my mind. I would consider that is an episodic memory. Dear friends, we will be going deeper into these faculties in the coming episodes, and that will certainly contribute to deepening our prayer. Prayer, as I said, is not just a recitation of oral recitation of prayers. Prayer is going deeper, and I suggested 10 to 15 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes early in the morning, sitting on your bed and meditating silently. That is where the memory will play a bigger role in practicing hope. Pope Francis, if I'm not mistaken, said recently, don't quote me, maybe my mistake, when we sit for prayer, when we are not able to pray, we just say, Lord, I do not know how to pray. So then maintain total silence without distractions. That becomes a profound prayer, and that can really enrich us and strengthen us. Therefore, dear friends, in the coming episodes, we will go deeper into the topic of prayer and how we can deepen the sense of prayer in our daily life, especially in the Jubilee year. Let us try to pray, and you will find that power of God descending upon you in that silent prayer and enriching you. I guarantee you that you will have a new vision and total new understanding of your existence here on earth, and your power of living and your power of life will be doubled with the sense of prayer and the grace that is provided through our faith, hope, and charity. And certainly it will help us in our daily life to go ahead to carry our daily cross and follow Jesus and become his true disciples. God bless you.